Hello and welcome to your weekly video forecast for the week beginning the 10th of November 2014. Lots of passion this weekend and intensities, sensitivities being hit, tables being overturned. Quite a cataclysmic week. What can I say? Quite a powerful week, but ultimately a week where a lot of powerful and positive changes can be set in motion if you focus your energy in the right direction. So where do we start it all off? Let's start it all off with Monday. Today, Mars conjuncting Pluto. Very passionate and powerful energy. You know, in the old system of astrology, Mars was the ruler of Scorpio. Now it's Pluto. So when you have Mars and Pluto conjuncting each other, it's like two brothers working with each other, but also friction with each other too. There's going to be some friction with this aspect, but it's passion, truth, no holds barred approach, just being completely upfront, blunt, breaking through the barriers, breaking through the barricades, being real, being true, being honest, because this is taking place in a section of Capricorn. By the way, I should say that Capricorn is where Mars is exalted. This is taking place in a section of Capricorn that is called Purva Ashadha. Purva Ashadha relates to all that is real and authentic. Ultimately, it deals with the causal nature of the soul in its natural state. When we're dealing with it externally, we're dealing with the power of being invigorated because you're dropping all the superficial layers and you're just being completely and ultimately real about a situation and setting some massive changes in motion in your life as a result of this. Now, I was saying Mars is exalted in Capricorn. When a planet's exalted, it's able to function at its best. So this is a very focused and passionate energy. There may be some anger present with this. There may be some intensity. Just try to work with it. Try to work with the energy rather than going with the resistance. If you're feeling like you're going to turn into the human volcano, then try not to let things erupt, but try to be aware of what the impulse behind all the energy might be. We move into Tuesday. With the moon in Cancer, we've got a harmonious alignment between Mercury and Jupiter. This is called a quintile. It's a very brief aspect, but it's very positive, very short-lived as well. What this is saying to me is there's a potential for expansion, a potential for growth, because one is dealing with the potential of wanting to break free of something, wanting to deal with the restrictions which have been binding one and expand beyond those restrictions. And there's the ability to feel strong and confident in oneself and to not self-doubt. We're dealing with Mercury after all. When Mercury is positive, then our mind can be very creative, innovative, and also dealing with this aspect, very set in our thought patterns, but in a positive sense. This serves ultimately a positive purpose, very directed energy. On Wednesday, Mercury forms a harmonious angle with Neptune. And this is powerful because Neptune is getting ready to practically sit still. This is called stationing. Planets station whenever they're turning retrograde or direct. And Neptune is getting ready to turn direct after several months of being retrograde. So practically when an outer planet like Neptune is stationing, it's going to do so over the course of a whole week, right? This is about getting to the heart of matters, being able to cut through all the confusion by being strong within oneself, by trusting in oneself, by knowing oneself. All the things which have been creating all the drama, the obscurity, the things that you haven't been able to see, the fog finally begins to lift and clear. An aha moment comes in an instant that feels like silence. Whenever we're dealing with the planet sitting still, especially like Neptune or Mercury, there can be a very silent aspect associated with it. So the confusion can be cut through. Clarity can begin to set the wheels in motion that were already initiated earlier in the week. So maybe they shouldn't be set in motion. Maybe they should be further down the road. But I think you know ultimately what I'm talking about when I say that. On the 13th, on Thursday, The moon will be in Leo. We've got a conjunction between Venus and Saturn and a tense alignment between Mars and Uranus. Okay? Venus conjuncting Saturn. What purpose does Saturn serve in the zodiac rather than creating all the resistance and making you really frustrated? Well, actually, it does serve a very positive purpose. Saturn's in Scorpio, and it's going to be conjuncting Venus in Scorpio. Saturn is the planet of crystallization. Venus is a planet that's associated with creativity. And they're both in a section of Scorpio that's called Vishaka. Vishaka is an energy which on one level is somewhat uncertain, but it's gathering information and it's looking at all of the different options that are open to it. And there's an enlightening moment within this Venus and Saturn conjunction where one begins to see a path illumined. And because this path is illumined, one can direct one's energy in a specific manner in order to, if you remember the day before, we were dealing with Mercury and Neptune. So now that that energy has become clear, then things are beginning to crystallize. And then energy can be directed in a specific manner. And you begin to have an idea after feeling perhaps stalled for quite a long period of time. There's more impetus, more impulse, and more knowledge about the direction in which things need to head. We'll encapsulate all this at the end and go back over all that we've been talking about. Mars is squaring Uranus. You recognize that the changes that you're making may have to overturn or upset your comfort zone, or potentially somebody else's comfort zone, or potentially somebody else's sensitivities. But changes need to happen. People need to stop dealing with the situation with kid gloves on. There's a need to be very real with the situation. Yes, it can mean some tension, but ultimately it sets each person that may be involved in that tension in a better direction, which ultimately will be beneficial to both of the parties individually. On the 14th, the Sun squaring Jupiter and Venus semi-squaring Pluto. An energy with the Sun of still feeling as if now that you have this direction, now that you have this sense of where things need to head, there's still a bit of a wait and see moment, even though you're wanting to expand and move forward. And that can make you feel a little bit hesitant, uncomfortable, not quite as strong within yourself because you're ready for action and you're ready for the changes to come into being. Venus semi-squaring Pluto on that very same day. And Venus is in Anuradha by this point. And Anuradha is very devoted, very passionate energy, but it has a tendency sometimes to get imbalanced. And there needs to be a balance with this energy. So this is a very devoted energy that you're feeling inside of yourself now that you're knowing the directions that things need to, or the direction area that things need to head into. Pardon me with that. But there's that passion inside of you that doesn't want to wait. And that can be a little bit disconcerting in this Venus-Pluto semi-square. The following day, that leads potentially to a full-blown explosive energy as Venus sesquiquadrate Uranus. A sesquiquadrate is a square and a half. It's very powerful energy. And again, Venus is in Anuradha. It's very passionate, very devoted energy. And dealing with your own sensitivities and also the sensitivities of another, and recognizing that there has to be some give and take in the situation. And at the same time, you can't give too much away at the same time that you can't take too much. And it potentially becomes frustrating, but ultimately it can be dealt with in a positive manner if you work with the aspect constructively. How do you work with the aspect constructively? Well, we go back to that very same fact. You have to give and take equally, but always within the comfort zone of your own ethics, your own heart, and also being aware of the other person's sense of ethics to the extent that you're able to, and their own sense of importance, what's important to them. On Sunday, we've got Neptune finally stationing direct and Mercury sextiling Pluto. This is even more clear energy, clearing energy. The fog being cut through, as we were talking about earlier in the week when Mercury was trining Neptune. Mercury is now sextiling Pluto, a realization, a revelation, one that makes you understand and see potentially in the balance where this restless energy has been present and your mind's been feeling restless. There's suddenly a moment where the truth dawns, and you're able to, with this realization, come up with some constructive thoughts about how to deal with the confusion that's been there of the previous few days of how to create a balance between yourself and another, your needs and another needs. That other could be anywhere from a boss, a partner, corporation, bill you're paying, any number of things, because hey, it affects us all in a different area of our life. But the confusion finally being cut through, information being more deeply revealed. So it's a week where passions are pretty high. So we need to be aware of those passions. We need to not ignore them. We need to not suppress them, but we need to not let them control us as well. Some progress set in motion gradually over the course of the coming week. We were talking about Mars conjuncting Pluto, setting things in motion. But the important thing to keep in mind is this is very progressive. So things will be set in motion. But over the course of the week, there's more information that's revealed from the aspects that follow, more fog that is cut through, more confusion that is cleared out of the way, more knowledge and more wisdom that comes to one as a result, and deep revelations, some of them perhaps difficult and disconcerting, because there are sure to be some sensitivities that are hit. But ultimately, it's all positive and beneficial. If you'd like to know more about how the week's aspects will affect you personally, I'm not going to go into depth about it, but there is a vast range of astrological services that are available on my website, and you can click on the link above in order to access the page where those are available. And if you haven't subscribed to my YouTube page, please consider doing so you can receive regular updates anytime a new video is released. That's going to do it for your weekly video forecast for the week beginning the 10th of November. Until next week, please do take very good care of yourself.